A virtual flood of never-before-seen details leading up to the FBI's raids of President Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen. This morning, a federal judge in New York has released hundreds of partially blacked-out documents related to the search warrant served on Cohen's office, home, and hotel room almost a year ago. Among the revelations, many months before those raids stunned the nation, the special counsel was searching Cohen's emails. Kara Scannell joins me in Washington. As you have been trying to read through, I know, these hundreds of pages of documents between coming on live with us to talk about them, but that is really what struck me too, that all the way back to 2015, you had Mueller's team of prosecutors looking at these emails rather, that go back to 2015.
That's right, Poppy. I mean, what we've learned is just 2 months into the special counsel's investigation, they had already asked for their first warrant of Michael Cohen's email accounts. They had in total had obtained 4 search warrants for 3 of Cohen's email accounts and 1 of his iCloud storage accounts. And these emails went back to June of 2015. Now, that information was then provided to the U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan by February of 2018, when this investigation into campaign finance violations was referred to them. And since then, the U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan had also obtained its own search warrants covering the gap in period that the special counsel's last warrant had. So they then got search warrants for all of Michael Cohen's current emails up until February of 2018. And that was just a few weeks before the raid on Michael Cohen's hotel room, apartment, and safety deposit box in early April, when this investigation all broke into the public eye. But for months behind the scenes, the U.S. Attorney's Office and the special counsel's office had been reading Michael Cohen's emails going back to June of 2015. They had also received a pen register warrant, which allows them to see who was calling Michael Cohen and who Michael Cohen was calling, which without revealing the contents of those communications, but they were able to then learn who he was in contact with over this time period. So they were really almost a fly on the wall in Michael Cohen's life, being able to see who he was communicating with, who he was in contact with. They did reveal in these filings that they did have a filter team in place to protect any potentially attorney-client privileged communications. But essentially, the government was, following Michael Cohen along as they were investigating him for bank fraud, campaign finance fraud. What we don't learn in these documents is a lot of detail about why they believed he was committing campaign finance fraud. All of that is redacted, right. Poppy.
Right, but we'll see how long it stays redacted, right? Will they release that information once that investigation wraps up? People are going to want to know. Kara, thanks. Let me bring in our senior justice correspondent, Evan Perez. All right, Evan, you've got hundreds of pages. You've got a lot of redactions, including that entire campaign finance part here.
That's right. There's almost 20 pages that are redacted from this, from the release of this document. And Poppy, one of the most interesting things is that it appears to relate, at least the language that the prosecutors are using, it appears to relate specifically to Michael Cohen's relationship with President Trump, candidate Trump, before the election, obviously. And so that's one of the most interesting things here. And I'll read just a little part of it where the Manhattan U.S. Attorney and the FBI say that they're investigating a criminal violation of the campaign finance laws by Michael Cohen, a lawyer who holds himself out as the personal attorney for President Donald J. Trump. As detailed, there is probable cause to believe that, and then it's redacted. So the judge essentially approved this. We don't know exactly what's in these nearly 20 pages of redactions, but we do know that there's an ongoing investigation by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan now that the Mueller investigation is coming to a close. And if you talk to the president's attorneys, they expect that this is an investigation that is going to continue through the end of Donald Trump's presidency.
Okay, many more questions on that, which I'll get to with our attorney in just a moment. But before you go, Evan, in just a few moments, we're learning that the acting Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, might actually not be leaving the Justice Department in mid-March, which would be right about now, like he was planning on. Why?
Right, exactly. This has been a big waiting game, certainly for Rod Rosenstein. The expectation generally was that March 15th was going to be his last day, but now we're to Laura Jarrett, or a reporter at the Justice Department there, is told by an official that he's staying a little longer. We don't know exactly how much longer. He hasn't given his notice yet to the White House of exactly his date of departure, Poppy, but we do know this. We know that Rod Rosenstein, one of the things that's sort of the guiding force behind his decision-making here is that he wanted to make sure that he stayed until he was satisfied that the Mueller investigation was was either complete or nearly enough to completion that he had helped protect the investigation. So that appears to be still the driving force. Obviously, we had expected, there had been some expectation from the Justice Department officials that Mueller was going to hand in his report to the Attorney General Bill Barr, certainly by now, certainly by the end of February. So that was all the timeline that we were working on, and it appears that Rod Rosenstein is staying just a little longer.
Okay, Evan, thanks for the reporting on both fronts. Let's bring in former FBI Special Agent Asha Rangappa and former federal prosecutor Jennifer Rogers. Good morning, you guys. Jennifer, let me just get your read on so the why here for Michael Cohen. You know, this is prosecutors that didn't want this stuff out there, so they got these redactions, but the judge still saw a public interest need to see these and a right to see them. Michael Cohen's attorney, Lanny Davis, is supportive of this. I mean, he even goes so far as to say it will help Michael Cohen and his desire to continue to cooperate here. Why?
Well, it's really interesting, Poppy. I mean, they redacted everything, and surely there are some things that Michael Cohen has already testified about and that were contained in the sentencing documents for Michael Cohen that are already in the public realm and could have been left unredacted. Prosecutors obviously felt strongly that this is ongoing, that they still have work to do, that there are people and facts in there that they don't want out, which means that it looks like they're planning to charge more people. And Judge Pauley is holding their feet to the fire. He told prosecutors they needed to come back in May to justify again why at that point these documents can't be more fully unredacted than they are now. So, you know, everyone seems to be on top of this, and prosecutors must have convinced the judge that, you know, it would jeopardize their ongoing investigation to unredact all of this material. So, you know, I think they are looking to charge some more folks in this.
Asha, when you look at some of the details that we are getting here, let's take the emails. The fact that the special counsel was looking at emails back to 2015 from Michael Cohen, from 2015 to 17, those emails, and then in 2018 referred this over to the SDNY. The significance.
Yeah, so, you know, what this reveals to me is the important information that this was initiated originally by the special counsel's office as part of its mandate to look at links and coordination between the Trump campaign and Russia. So they had probable cause on their own to obtain emails going back to, as you mentioned, June 2015. Now, if they came across information that was evidence of a potential crime that was outside of that mandate, they then referred that to the Southern District of New York, which picked that up and carried it along. But it's important to also note that this particular search warrant application notes that one of the things that Michael Cohen was doing was using his company, Essential Consultants, the same company that was used to make the hush money payments, to actually get money from foreign clients, including Russian-owned companies, to basically give access to Trump while he was president. And this is kind of going to the heart of some of that foreign influence, whether there was any kind of, you know, quid pro quo or back channel access going on, which I think would be of interest to the special counsel.
Well, because one of those companies, and we're learning more in this document, is Columbus Nova, which of course is owned by a Russian national that the FBI, you know, wanted to talk to when his private plane landed here in the U.S., Victor Vesselberg, and that Cohen was paid over $500,000, Jennifer, from that individual. Significant?
I think so. I mean, you know, clearly Cohen had this consulting business going. He was taking in money hand over fist from all sorts of folks, including a bunch of American companies. Now, what came out when we first learned about this consulting business was that supposedly he didn't do much consulting at all, at least with the American companies, who then had to kind of try to cover themselves with the American public after having paid him all of this money. But it's unclear what actually he did with Victor Vesselberg and his company. So, you know, certainly the special counsel and SDNY probably will have talked to him about that, so we should learn more about that in the months to come, hopefully.
And Asha, what about the pen register in terms of the calls that were on two separate occasions? Mueller's team received a warrant to track numbers and the phone calls coming into Michael Cohen's phone and going out of Michael Cohen's phone. These were on these requests for these warrants November 7th and 2017 and January 4th, 2018.
Yeah, well, pen registers are really useful for basically providing corroborating information to other kinds of communications that are going on. So, you know, they can help substantiate whether Cohen spoke with particular people on particular dates. Even if they don't have the contents of those communications, they can corroborate other kinds of communications. So I do think that those are significant.
Okay, thank you both, Asha Rangappa, Jennifer Rogers. Appreciate it.